All right, guys. So I'm going to be going through the notes with you today on a video. I'm not going to be here for some of the classes, so I would like you still to take notes and follow along with me just as if I was teaching in front of the class. Okay. You can always just pause the video if you need to, and if I go ahead, or you can always go back if you need to if you miss something. Okay. But today we're going to be talking about similar figures. Okay. All right. Okay, so definition of similar figures. Similar figures are figures that have the same shape, but not necessarily the same size. Okay, so some things you can underline. They have the same shape. I can same shape. There we go. But not necessarily the same size. Okay. So two requirements have to happen in order for them to truly be similar to each other. Okay. First one, the measure of their corresponding angles are equal to each other. Okay, for example, right here I have this angle and this angle are the same. They're 90 degrees because we know all the angles within a rectangle are 90 degrees, but they are corresponding because they're in the same spot, um, and they're equal to each other. Okay, the second thing that has to be true is the ratio of the lengths of the corresponding sides have to be proportionate. This is why we always do proportions before we do this lesson. Okay, all right, let's go to some visuals here. All right, so on this slide, we are we have two pictures, and it says corresponding angles are pairs of matching angles that are in the same spot but in two different shapes. Okay, so I have all of them listed here. For instance, A corresponds with G, so you have A and you have G. Now notice the figures have been flipped, so you have to be really careful with that. Okay, B and H, so we have B and H, and then we have D and F. D and F are corresponding, and C and F would be the last one. So if you guys notice these little rainbow shapes inside of these figures, if it has one rainbow, okay, it matches up. So for instance, F has one rainbow, C has one rainbow, and that means that whatever their measurements are, they are equivalent to each other. Okay. Now, same thing goes if they have two rainbows. So two rainbows here. B also has two rainbows. Though they're not corresponding sides, they are equal because H corresponded with, oh, H did correspond with B, so that one did work out. Okay? All right, let's go to the next. So we talked about two requirements, right? Not just the angles have to be proportionate, but the sides have to be proportionate. Okay, so you have to figure out what sides are proportionate to what. And again, these figures are flipped, so be careful. But I have a list at the bottom. So we have AB is proportionate to DE, or corresponds with. So AB corresponds with DE. Okay, try to change my color up here. So BC corresponds with EF. We have BC corresponds with EF. Okay. And lastly, since it's a triangle, we have CA corresponds with DF. CA corresponds with DF. All right, so those sides, they kind of match up with each other. They're not equivalent, though. They're proportionate. Okay, so let's get into an example here. So it says, are the following figures similar? Explain why or why not. So two things have to be true, remember. First, are they corresponding angles equal? And second, are the corresponding sides proportionate? Okay, so the first thing we need to figure out here are my angles the same? Okay, so all you have to do is look at these, and you know that all angles in a rectangle are 90 degrees, so the corresponding angles are most certainly equal. Okay, now as far as proportion goes, you have to use your side lengths. This is where a little math comes in. Okay, so I'm going to set up a proportion using these two. So I have 5/7. Is that equivalent to, remember, 5 lines up with 2, so that goes across from it, and 7 lines up with 4. Remember how we did units across with units? Well, they all have the same units, but it's now corresponding sides across from corresponding sides. And we just simply cross multiply. 7 times 2, so that would give me 14. 4 times 5, that would give me 20. Are those equivalent? And that's going to be a big no. They are not equivalent. Okay, So if that's the case, then corresponding sides are not proportional because the ratio of corresponding side lengths are not equal. These are not, my whole picture here. These are not similar, okay? All right, next slide, here we go. Okay, so this one says determine if the figures are similar. So on this one, I didn't give you the bullets, but two things have to be true. Do they have equal angles, and do they have a proportionate sides? Okay, so let's really quickly, the angles are the easiest to see, okay? So on here, 60, 60, yep, 90, 90, yep, 30, 30. So those check out, okay? So all my angles are equal. Done. Now, math part. Let's set up a proportion. Now, if you guys notice, within a proportion, we only need 4 numbers, and I have 6 numbers for my side lengths. So my suggestion to you is to mark off one. I'm going to use the decimal to mark it off because nobody likes to use decimals. And then I also have to mark off its corresponding side because we're not going to use it. Okay, so we're going to set up a proportion. I'm going to use 6 and 9, 6 and 9. And then what corresponds with 6 is 4. And what corresponds with 9 is 6. Okay, and then I just simply cross multiply, 36 here, cross multiply, 36 here. Are they equivalent? Yes, they are. So two things happened here. Okay, we had corresponding angles. Okay, we had corresponding angles and we had corresponding sides. So these figures are similar. Okay. Again, if I'm going too fast or you need to catch up or anything, please just pause it and then you can restart it anytime you need to, or you can go back. All right, next slide. Okay, so this is time for you to practice. So you have 4 questions, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I am asking you to find, are the following figures similar? Okay, are the following figures similar? And I need you to tell me why or why not. Okay, so remember the 2 things that have to be true. They have to be equivalent angles, and they also have to be proportionate sides. Okay, so I'm going to give everybody a second to do that. And if you need to right now, you can actually pause the video. And then when you are ready to check your answers after you've done all of your work on your paper, then you can play the video and you can make sure that your answers are correct. And I'll go to the next slide. So please pause your video right now. Okay, so here's what we got for answers. Number 1, yes, corresponding sides are proportionate and corresponding angles are equivalent or equal. That one is similar figures, check. Number 2, yes, corresponding sides are proportionate and corresponding angles are equal. Yes. Number 3, no. Corresponding angles are not proportional and corresponding angles are not equal. So that one's a big no. Okay? All right. So that is it for similar figures. Please make sure you finish up your practice and do your homework if you do not finish it in class.